Welcome. I'm so glad to be back with you. Every story you're about to hear is real, terrifying, and sent in by listeners just like you. So, turn off the lights, wrap yourself in a blanket, grab some snacks. You're in for a night of true horror. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. It truly helps and inspires us to bring you even more chilling tales. Are you ready? Then settle in, because it's time for the long-awaited scary stories for a rainy evening. When my phone slipped from my hand and hit the worn gray, once black, rubber gym floor, I glanced at the time, 1:22 a.m. One of the few perks of working the late shift was having the entire gym to myself after clocking out at midnight. If I didn't have the bad habit of procrastinating, mindlessly scrolling through my feed, and stretching half-heartedly, I would have been well into my workout by then. Tossing a couple of plates onto the bar, I settled onto the cold, smooth synthetic leather bench and let my head fall back. The familiar side-to-side shift as I adjusted my position felt like an embrace from an old friend. The old Smith machine, abandoned by everyone else, was my favorite piece in the entire 24-hour gym. The brand logos had long since worn off from countless sweaty bodies, but it was special to me. Lifting on it reminded me of the squeaky pull-up bar in my dad's garage, where he once taught me how to do chin-ups. It made me feel nostalgic. I unracked the bar and slowly lowered the weight until it barely touched my chest, then pressed it back up effortlessly. The bar slid with a metallic grind along the rails. Many people think the night shift is depressing and lonely, but I thrived in the independent solitude gave me, especially in a gym usually filled with the sounds and smells of people pushing their bodies to the limit. During the day, the gym felt like a minefield of insecurities and distractions. At night, it became my sanctuary, occasionally shared by a couple of other reclusive souls. I added more weight and started the next set. It was heavy, but each rep came without a fight. The hum of the fluorescent lights, the whoosh of the ventilation, and the rhythmic movement of the bar lulled me into a meditative state. Then, snap, a sudden flash of pain ripped through me. With a sickening crunch like tearing off a chicken leg, my right shoulder gave out under the steel 100-kilo press, crashing down on me like a truck sliding on ice. My left arm trembled, desperately trying to stabilize the load. For a second, panic set in. As cliche as it sounds, my life flashed before my eyes. But more than anything, I thought about how my family would react. I could clearly picture my parents, my fiancé, and a few distant relatives standing at a grave that read, "Died like an idiot." Worse, someone might find me here, another gym goer arriving early, only to laugh at the pathetic sight of my crushed corpse. I'd die of shame if I wasn't already dead. Thankfully, I had enough sense left to twist my wrists despite the blinding pain, and I heard the bar click into the safety catches, slamming right into my sternum. My heart pounded like an echo in the cold metal. My breathing turned ragged, shallow. The pain numbed into stillness. My chest couldn't fully expand under the pressure. "You should never bench without a spotter," scolded the voice in my head. And I knew that. I really did. But arrogance had drowned out my instinct for self-preservation. I trusted the rotating hooks of the machine to be enough. The little cross pressed into my skin by the weight told me otherwise. I pushed that nagging voice aside and began shimmying down the bench, inching my hips away from the bar. Slowly, agonizingly, my chest slipped free from the steel trap. I gasped, feeling a warm trickle of blood under my hoodie. The wooden crucifix around my neck had torn through layers of skin. Gathering myself, I clenched my teeth and tried to free my head from under the bar. No matter how I turned, my ear, jaw, or skull kept getting in the way. In frustration, I screamed and kicked like a tantrum-throwing child. The bar hovered ominously just inches from my exposed throat. Despite it all, laughter bubbled up, hysterical, uncontrollable. I knew I'd survive, but the thought of someone finding me like this was just absurd. So I lay there out of reach of my phone, utterly alone. I hoped someone else, working the night shift, might wander in and find me eventually. Dizziness, thirst, and isolation washed over me. The fluorescent lights above became a desert sun, bleaching my bones for the vultures. To avoid thinking about how stupid I looked, I shut my eyes and waited. The slam of a door made me flinch. "Hey!" I called out hoarsely. "Help!" Creaking footsteps echoed, and I blinked into the ghost-white light, babbling some kind of explanation. I stopped when I realized the stranger was standing just a foot from my head, silent. "Could you help me?" I asked pitifully. In response, only ragged, rasping breaths echoed back. I turned my head slightly and caught a glimpse. Legs and torso clad in long, dark clothing. Something primal inside me froze. My breath mirrored the stranger's. Short, panicked gasps. Then he lunged forward, grabbed a plate from a nearby rack. I flinched, waiting for the blow, but instead heard the metallic click of him racking it onto the bar. Horrified, I watched as the hooded man eagerly added more and more weight. The machine groaned under the load. It dawned on me. He was going to crush me. The bar now held over half a ton. My neck was perfectly positioned for a modern-day guillotine. Desperate, I slammed my chin and face against the bar, thrashing, screaming for help, anyone, to witness what was about to happen. But a massive, calloused hand clamped over my mouth, while the other slowly twisted the bar. Of course, he was unlocking the bar from the safeties. This wasn't a rescue. In a frenzy, I scratched and punched his log-thick forearms, even bit into the tough leather of his glove, tasting blood. To my horror, he just wheezed out a sick laugh, a mix of pain, effort, and pleasure. I felt his sweat drip onto me, heard his heartbeat thundering through his wrists. He was enjoying this. Then came the final click, and the bar began to descend. In that instant, I made a wild gamble. Hooking my legs under the bench frame, I yanked my torso sideways. The bar dropped. The bench flipped. I smashed face first into the machine. Stars exploded behind my eyes. Blood sprayed from what was left of my nose. The bar crashed into the floor with a monstrous clang. Because of the plate size and my new position, face down beneath the tip bench, I had narrowly escaped death. No time to celebrate. I leapt up and immediately slammed my head into another piece of the frame. Pain flashed again. Dazed, I realized the attacker was gone. My mind spun. My skull throbbed. My phone was missing. Every familiar machine felt like a trap. I grabbed a small kettlebell and crept between the machines, hyper-aware of every sound. Only my footsteps and the drip-drip of blood from my face broke the silence. My right arm dangled uselessly. The left held the kettlebell overhead. I made for the exit, then froze. He was there, standing beyond the glass doors, silhouetted by the red glow of the exit sign. Over 7 feet tall, shoulders so wide they wouldn't fit a standard door frame. Head down, drool dripping from beneath a surgical mask. He wheezed, stepping toward me with fists the size of microwaves. I backed away, then caught a glint in the corner of a door sticker. Protected by Safeguard Systems, LLC. Summoning every last ounce of strength, I hurled the 18-pound kettlebell. The monster ducked, surprised by the attack, but the weight sailed true, shattering the glass. Alarms howled through the empty gym. I knew help was on the way. The figure hesitated, processing the situation. Then, to my shock, he simply turned and walked out through the broken door, slumped shoulders radiating disappointment. When his heavy steps stopped reverberating through the floor, I collapsed and blacked out. Telling the story later to a bored, pudgy cop by my hospital bed, it all sounded ridiculous, less terrifying, more absurd. The attacker's DNA left on the scene matched nothing in any database. The investigation was dropped within days, filed away in some dusty cabinet. By the time I was discharged, I was told there was no hope of finding him. But I didn't care. I was alive. Despite the wrecked machine and the literal hole in the wall, the gym offered me a lifetime membership as compensation for the incident. I politely declined. I think I'll stick to calisthenics from now on. After all, lifting heavy can be dangerous. Feeling scared yet? I hope you didn't forget to leave a like and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us create even more chilling stories just for you. If you're ready, then let's continue. Get ready. The scariest part is still ahead. The day I invented the anticolon, I felt like Isaac Newton under the apple tree. A revelation, a seismic shift in the very fabric of language. It looked like a semicolon, but reversed. A comma perched atop a period, like a tiny sinister crown. I called it the anticolon because it did the opposite of what a colon does. It didn't introduce, it negated. It didn't connect, it severed. It was the punctuation mark of unraveling. I wrote a sprawling manifesto detailing its uses, implications, and elegant brutality. I sent the manuscript to the editors at the American Dictionary Institute, fully convinced they'd herald me as a linguistic messiah. Their response was dismissive, a formal letter. Thank you for your submission. While we appreciate your passion for language, we regret to inform you that your proposal is not under consideration at this time. They were laughing at me. I could feel it beneath the sterile, polite phrasing. They saw me as a madman, a crank, some amateur scribbler. They thought it was all a joke. That night, I saw it everywhere. In the shadows of my bedroom, in the pattern of dust motes spinning in the window light. It flickered in the static of the TV. Even when I closed my eyes, it was there, burned into my retina. The anticolon, the symbol of my humiliation, my rejection. It became the focal point of every wound I'd ever received, every offhand insult, every crushing failure. And then I started seeing it in the real world, in the cracks of the sidewalk, in the arrangement of leaves on a tree, in the way a fly landed on my window pane. It was a plague, a visual virus infecting my perception. One day in a fit of rage, I carved it into a notebook, the pen tearing through the paper. I imagined it stabbing into the eye of the editor at the Institute, his smug face contorting in agony. And then something changed. My hand trembled, a wave of nausea hit me, and then a surge of power. The next morning I saw the obituary. The editor had been found dead in his office, eyes wide with terror. Cause of death, unknown. Coincidence? I tried to believe that. I really did. But a creeping certainty took root. I decided to test it. I wrote the anticolon on a torn scrap of paper, focusing on my obnoxious neighbor, the one with the barking and a love for mowing the lawn at 1 a.m. By morning, the dog was found dead in the yard. The neighbor, curled in a fetal position, mumbling nonsense, his eyes full of a horror that didn't come from this world. It worked. The anticolon, powered by my rage, my frustration, my despair, had become a weapon of pure, undiluted negation. I could erase, I could unmake, I could cancel reality. I started small. A rude cashier, a loud moviegoer, a telemarketer who wouldn't take no for an answer. Each one a tiny tear in the fabric of being, barely noticeable, a whisper of erasure. But the power, it was intoxicating. the sense of control, of godlike authority, it pulled me deeper. I needed more. I craved it. The anticolon began appearing in my dreams, not as a symbol of failure, but of dominion. It was a crown, a scepter, a key to hidden destruction. I became obsessed. I filled entire notebooks with anticolons, each one a potential death sentence, a seed of madness. I saw them in the patterns of raindrops on my window, in the way streetlights reflected off wet pavement. I know what I'm doing is wrong, morally, spiritually, catastrophically wrong. But the world cast me aside. They laughed. And now they pay. I don't know how much longer I can go on like this. The guilt is constant, a gnawing rhythmic pain in my chest, but the power is too seductive. I'm starting to believe the anticolon was always there waiting, hidden deep within language itself, a dark secret, forbidden knowledge, a tool for the broken and betrayed. And now I ask you, do you see it? The anticolon, it's here somewhere in this story. Look closely. Maybe it's hiding in plain sight. Do you see it? Or have you already gone too far to notice? You're still here. Or has fear already taken you away? If you haven't yet, leave a like and subscribe. Your support breathes life into the darkest stories. I hope we'll meet again soon. Next time, even darker and more terrifying secrets await you. Come back soon while I prepare new nightmares that will haunt your sleep.